Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Xony, and today we're going to have some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further, let's go. Now let's get into today's stories to find out what happened. My girlfriend and I had been together for a little over 2 years. I met her on a dating app and we went out for coffee one day. We instantly had a good connection and our coffee date turned into a late movie screening. We didn't really want to leave each other. We had only been dating for a few weeks when I asked her to be my girlfriend and we both deleted our profiles on the app we met on. I was really excited to be with her. Historically, I've had some trouble maintaining healthy relationships and I felt like something was different with her. I let my guard down and I was vulnerable with her. When we initially started dating, we never had a discussion about our previous sexual history. We discussed testing and things like that, but I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to ask her for her body count. She eventually told me on her own without me even asking. She told me that it was only 4. It sounds misogynistic, but I was happy it was so low. She had 2 long-term boyfriends and a couple of short flings, but other than that she didn't seem to be the type of person who would hook up with people randomly. My body count was only a little bit higher than hers, so I thought we were a good match experience-wise. Everything was normal with us for the first part of our relationship. We weren't living together just yet, but I was considering asking her if she wanted to take that next step. I thought I saw a future with her. She was different from all of the other girls I dated, and I wanted to spend my life with her. The issue first arose when I noticed she was getting calls and text messages from a couple of different men. Given my past relationship history, I was a little wary about that at first. I never wanted to be seen as the kind of guy who was controlling or possessive, so I bit my tongue about it for a while. One day I saw a FaceTime video come through while I was with her from one of those guys. We'll call him Fred. She rejected the call, but I decided that I wanted to ask her more about it. She told me that it was just a friend from college, and he had been wanting to reconnect and go out now that he was back in the city. She made it seem like it was platonic. I didn't have an issue with her being friends with men, I was friends with women, so I knew it wasn't inherently bad. She didn't tell me why she was rejecting Fred's calls and putting him off though. It made me think that something might have happened with them, or she might have been trying to avoid hurting his feelings. It was possible that he had some kind of crush on her and she didn't want to get involved with that. A few weeks went by and I was supposed to go out to dinner with her. It had been a busy week and I was really looking forward to getting away and spending time with my girlfriend. Unfortunately, she canceled at the last minute. She told me that she wasn't feeling well and had a migraine. I offered to bring her some comfort food, relax with her at her apartment, and watch some movies. She told me she just wanted to go to sleep. Later that night I pulled up my phone and scrolled through social media, as I always did before bed. I clicked on one of her friends' Instagram stories and saw that they went out to a club. I didn't see my girlfriend in the first few images, but I noticed her sitting in the background in one of them. She was sitting at a table next to a couple of guys in a very revealing outfit. One of the guys next to her was obviously into her, and just from the way she was looking at him in the image I could tell she was into him too. It wasn't enough for me to think that she had cheated on me right away. At the very least, I knew that she had lied to me. I didn't understand why she would lie if she had been invited to go out with her friends and wanted to do that. I would have understood. I couldn't help but think that there was something else going on that she felt the need to lie. I did some digging through her other friends' Instagram and Snapchat stories to put together who was in attendance that night. I could see that Fred was at the club with her. I had already been kind of concerned about what was going on with them. She already told me that he wanted to hang out platonically with her, so why was she lying about it? From his social media, I learned that he had just moved into the city with his long-term girlfriend. I didn't know the full story, but it looked like they were together. when they were in college and they either had a long-distance relationship or rekindled something after some time. It made me feel good knowing that he was in a relationship because I thought it would lessen the chance that he was trying to sleep with my girlfriend. I didn't say anything to my girlfriend about it when I saw her the following day. She seemed really out of it. I figured she was either faking the illness or she was hungover. We watched a movie together and she fell asleep about halfway through. I was curious about what happened, so I looked through her phone. I started with her text messages. There was a long exchange between her and Fred about getting together now that he was back in the city. I already knew that he wanted to do that, so it wasn't surprising. What surprised me was how much he was begging her to give him another chance. From the context, I could tell that they had dated or slept together before in the past. I knew that he wasn't one of the people that she told me about when she went over her sexual history with me. So that was another thing she lied about. At the end of their message exchanges, she told him that they would see each other at the club and see where it went from there. It sounded like she was giving him a chance to date her again. I was already pretty heartbroken about that. I really trusted her and I wanted to be with her long term. Over the past few days she had lied to me so much and I had every reason to believe she either cheated on me or planned to cheat on me. I found several unsaved numbers in her phone where she and whoever was on the other end were making plans to get drinks or go to coffee with each other. There wasn't anything explicit in those messages, but it seemed like she was going on dates with the people. I saw that she had Hinge downloaded. She had a profile with recent pictures and recent messages with men. She had given some of them her phone number. The last thing I looked at was her notes app. I found a list in the notes where there were dozens of men listed with a date and a brief description of a sexual encounter. At the very bottom of the list was Greg. She described how they hooked up in the bathroom at the club. I found my name on the list. Around the same time she and I started dating, there were several other men, and all throughout a relationship there had been other men listed as well. I felt stupid. If she had been sleeping around with so many different people, how had I not noticed anything up until that point? Was I really that naive? I screenshot a lot of the information that I found and I sent them to myself, and then I deleted the screenshots. While my girlfriend was still asleep, I left her apartment. I went home to mine and I broke down about everything. I felt massively betrayed and I didn't know what to do. I told my girlfriend everything about my past, and she assured me that she was different, and I believed her. I slept on everything, and when I woke up in the morning I saw that my girlfriend had texted me a few times asking me about where I went. I didn't respond to them right away. I needed to think about what I wanted to do. I was going to be breaking up with her for sure. I just couldn't shake the feeling that I wanted to get some kind of revenge on her for what she did. She went out into a public place, surrounded by several of her friends, and cheated on me with another guy. She humiliated me in front of all of those people. I wanted to do something similar to her. I responded later in the day and told her that I had a minor family emergency come up and I had to leave. I told her that everything was fine and I was okay, but I offered to take her to that dinner again that night. She'd agreed to go and I told her to get dressed up because I was taking her to a nice place. She seemed excited. I was able to score some last-minute reservations at a place in the city that she had always wanted to go to. I picked her up before dinner and I drove her there. We checked in and got brought to our tables where we ordered some food. I told her to order the most expensive thing on the menu, and I ordered a very nice bottle of wine for the table. As we both ordered, I could see the bill was going to be upwards of $500. It was more than either of us could afford at the time for sure. At the end of the meal, I pulled up my phone and read the list of names that I found on hers. She was surprised to say the least. Her face turned bright red and she looked like she was about to vomit. She kept asking me to stop, but I didn't. Our conversation was very animated and a lot of people around us turned to look over at us while we talked. I made it as clear as day that she had been sleeping with all of those men and lying to me about it. When I was done, I walked off and told her that we were breaking up. She tried to get me to come back and talk to her, but I didn't want to. On my way out, I told the person at the front of the house that the bill would be paid for by her. It was the least she could do after cheating on me with so many different guys. I drove home and immediately looked through Fred's social media to find the contact information of his partner. I sent her a message through Instagram showing her the screenshots of the message exchanges between him and my girlfriend. I never got a response from her. But I checked back from time to time, and after a few days I saw that all of their pictures together were deleted from her Instagram. I could only assume that they'd broken up. I have received several Venmo requests from my ex-girlfriend for the entire cost of the dinner that I made her pay for. I ended up blocking her on everything, so there isn't any chance that she's going to get that money from me. Now let's get into the second story. My wife and I have been married for 5 years. She was the first woman I ever met who really captured my attention and made me want to get married. We had a lot in common and we wanted all of the same things out of life. It felt like it was meant to be. We dated for 2 years prior to getting married, and while we were dating we had a period of long distance. My wife and I both had very strong sex drives. So it was difficult. We eventually decided that since we couldn't see each other in person, we would try to have an open relationship. It wasn't something I would have normally done, but we agreed that it would be the best thing for us. At the time we had a long talk and set a lot of boundaries to ensure we were handling everything as ethically as possible. We agreed that we couldn't establish romantic connections with the other people we needed to be aware of every partner the other person had, and the people we slept with needed to be clean. We were both open and honest about the people that we were seeing. Most of the time we would use dating apps like Tinder to meet new people, and we both had each other's login information, so we could see what was going on if we needed to. Honestly, we trusted each other enough not to have to use that information. Everything seems to be going well. I moved back with her after about 9 months of being away, and I instantly proposed to her. Now that we were back together, we didn't need to have all of the extra partners, so we both ended everything with them all. After being back for a few months, my wife was invited to a party, and she asked me to come along with her. It was just a simple birthday party for a friend of hers. I didn't know the friend, so I met him for the first time at the party. Peter, we'll call him here, seemed nice enough, and he and I got along pretty well. I was told that they were friends from high school. Not long after the party, we decided to elope, because we didn't care to throw some big lavish wedding. All we wanted was to be together. A little bit before our second wedding anniversary, she approached me asking if it might be beneficial to open up the marriage again. I didn't know where it was coming from because I thought that we were happy and satisfied with everything in the relationship. I asked her about why she wanted to, and she confessed that there was somebody that she was attracted to. I told her that I only thought the open relationship was doable because of the distance. I wasn't comfortable with it now that we were living together and married. She accepted what I had to say and didn't bring it up to me again. Over the next couple of years, a lot of the strange behavior was being displayed by her. She would stay late at work a lot more often and at least once a month. She had a girls' night, where she slept over at a friend's house and supposedly just drank wine and did face masks. I thought we were solid. I thought that we communicated everything with each other, and I didn't have anything to worry about. It never crossed my mind that she would lie to me for such a long time. I only realized something was wrong when I finally caught her in a lie. It was one of the weekends where she was supposedly going to a girlfriend's house to hang out, and I didn't think anything about it. At least not until I ran into her friend's husband at a bar. There was a football game on, and I'd figured I would go to my favorite sports bar and watch it on the television there. He had the same idea. I recognized him, so I approached him and struck up a conversation. I made a joke about how it must have been impossible for him to take the time to watch the game while there was the girls' night at his house. He didn't know what I was talking about. I clarified what I meant, and he informed me that his wife was at home with their kids. I knew then that everything my wife said about going was a lie. I just didn't know why she was lying. I paid my tab and left the bar to go home and try to get to the bottom of it. I don't know if I speak for everyone when I say this, but when you're in a relationship and your partner lies to you about where they are and what they're doing, it immediately raises red flags for cheating. I thought back to how she asked me about opening the marriage years prior, and how she told me she was attracted to someone. It was a long time before that, but that didn't mean she still didn't have those feelings. My wife was a very attractive woman and people hit on her all the time. It was possible that somebody could approach her, and she could feel the same way about them. I had no way of finding out where she was or who she was with. I knew that she was going to be gone for the rest of the night, so I took my time reading online about the signs of someone having an affair. There were a lot of things that matched her behavior. Eventually, I decided that I was going to take a look at her computer because it seemed like communicating through email was a very popular way for cheaters to hide what they were doing. I logged into her computer and went to the email account that I was familiar with. I didn't see anything there. However, in her history, I saw that there was a Yahoo email account that I wasn't familiar with. I opened the website and her information was already saved, so I could access it pretty easily. There were hundreds of messages exchanged between her and Peter. I didn't remember who he was right away. He played a very insignificant part in my life, and aside from going to that one party years before, my wife never mentioned him. I knew almost nothing about the guy, but from what I could gather from their emails, they had been seeing each other for a very long time. It started when I was away, and my wife and I were seeing each other long distance. Peter knew that she was in an open relationship, but they both had romantic feelings for each other. I looked through my text message exchanges with my wife, and I never saw a mention of Peter in them. She told me about other partners, but she never told me about him, and apparently, she never ended things with him. She and Peter were telling each other that they loved each other all the time. They made plans to go on dates together, go on weekend vacations together, and dates out of town where nobody would recognize them. They put a lot of planning into their affair to make sure it was as discreet as possible. I was alarmed at how good my wife and I were. Wife was at hiding it. She was clearly a skilled liar, and that was the biggest red flag anybody could have. There were a few mentions in the emails of Peter's fiancée. He had originally been waiting for my wife to be with just him, but that never happened. There were conversations about how they needed to end what they were doing, but they just couldn't. They knew what they were doing was wrong, but they didn't care. Peter got engaged to another woman just months prior to me finding out about all of this. Their most recent email exchanges had information about the hotel room they were going to be staying in for the night. I looked it up online and saw that it was about 45 minutes away from where we lived. They were going the extra mile to hide from everyone. I knew that I needed to act. I didn't want my wife to just get away with everything she was doing. I felt like I was married to a stranger after discovering everything that I did. I did some digging online and I found that Peter's wife was a legal assistant at the law firm he worked at. I figured that it was a long shot, but I called the firm and I asked for her. It was very lucky, but she was there. She was apparently just about to walk out the door. I gave her my information and I told her to call me when she was not at work because I had something I needed to tell her about her fiancé. She was alarmed, but I think her curiosity got the better of her, and she humored me. She gave me a call about half an hour later, and I explained everything to her. I told her about the open relationship, how my wife met Peter then, and how they were in a hotel 45 minutes away sleeping together. She was very angry. She explained to me that he had been taking work trips on the weekends frequently and she had been suspecting for a while that there was something else going on. She just never had any proof. I told her that I planned on going to catch them, but she could join me if she wanted to. I swung by her house to pick her up and we made our way to the hotel. Along the drive, she told me a lot of information about what was happening with Peter that coincided with things that I was noticing with my wife. We got to the motel and I saw my wife's car in the parking lot. It was an outdoor motel and I figured her car was probably parked in front of the route she was in. Just to be sure I had the right room before doing what I was about to, I ran over to her car and tried the car handle to set the alarm off. She came out of the room moments later with a robe tied around her waist and turned the alarm off. checking the car to make sure it was okay. I could see Peter on the inside of the room, covering himself to stand in the doorway. I almost had to hold his fiancée back when she saw him. When I knew we had the right room, we both stormed out and approached the door to confront them. I knocked on the door and my wife called from the other side and told me to go away. I knocked again and eventually Peter opened the door with a stern look on his face. As soon as he saw his fiancée, it disappeared. Pushed me out of the way and slapped him across the face, telling him off. My wife saw the commotion and walked over to me to see what was going on. I told her that I couldn't believe that she was still seeing somebody from our open relationship face. She told me that she loved him and she tried to talk to me about him, but I just shut it down. I could see that she was just trying to save face because she never once mentioned Peter to me specifically. She kept him hidden from me throughout the entire time they were together. I told her that it was over between us and there was no salvaging what we had after what happened. Peter's fiancée also broke off their engagement right there. We told them that they deserved each other for what happened and we both ended up leaving. I got home a couple of hours later and I packed a bag to leave. My wife arrived shortly after that, clearly having followed us from the hotel, and we got into a huge argument. She blamed me for opening up the door for Peter. She told me that if we hadn't agreed to the open marriage to begin with, they would have never met. It was all my fault that she cheated on me. I felt bad about it already, but I didn't need her standing there telling me that it was my fault. I got the paperwork in motion to divorce my wife the very next day. I had plenty of proof of her infidelity, so she didn't stand a chance going against me. I thought that my wife was the love of my life, so when we got married there was no prenuptial agreement or anything like that. We didn't own our home, but we had some other assets that I got the better part of during the divorce. Peter's fiancée dragged him on social media and it seemed like he lost a majority of his friends after the fact. My wife tried to date Peter after everything. They moved in together and they thought they were going to live happily ever after, but as it turned out they couldn't stand each other. They both threw away their relationships for nothing. Funnily enough, and part of me knows that this might be a bad idea, but Peter's ex-fiancée and I had become good friends after everything. I thought she was a nice girl and after a while I started developing feelings for her. She felt them too, so now we're going to try dating to see how that feels. I was apprehensive about the idea of dating at first, but knowing that she went through something similar to me is actually somewhat comforting because I don't think she will behave in the same way.